Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Chris, and this is my channel, of course, Barn on 11970. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch my videos. All right, guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about perspective, because the one thing that I want to start getting people to start understanding, and that's the word I'm going to use from now on, because we don't want outer, we don't want under, we want inner. We want to look into ourselves and start trusting ourselves again. The system is basically created, and it's been like this for thousands of years. I mean, I'm assuming I haven't been around for thousands of years, at least I don't think I have, but it's all about belief systems, whether it's religious, politicians, government, what you want to see something as, and what it does is, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, you're still going outside of what you are. And if you know anything, even about what religion is supposed to be based on, it's supposed to be based on faith. Now, Bill Donahue, which is somebody I highly recommend watching on YouTube, he does a channel deciphering the Bible and seeing it for what it really is, which is a science book. But he made a good quote the other day where he says, let me pull it up so I can tell you exactly what it says. Give me a second. All right. As the only time you need faith is when you are unsure, which is very true, because when you have faith in something, well, you don't really know if it's true or real, but you're giving your faith over and saying, okay, I'm going to believe in this. You can't prove it, so you use a term called faith. This can be dangerous when it comes to an individual's ability to trust their own instincts and go in the right directions for them. Now, when I say for them, it means each person is going to have a different perspective of things. So what is right for you may not be right for someone else. Something that you saw, they may have saw differently. Something you, in your heart, trust in, somebody else might find as bad or wrong or crazy. And the problem is, we are so conditioned to be part of the team that we are so afraid to be separate from it, an individual. Because like they say, there is no I in team. What they're trying to do is create a herd mentality. Because like sheep, they're very easy to control because they all follow one another. Now, if you have, let's say, a zoo where everything gets out of its cage, and they're all separate entities, they're not going to all follow one another. Now, if there's only one way out, of course, that's where they're going to go, but from there, they're just going to scatter. So you can't just have one or two people round them all up and get them back into their pens or their jail cells, well, basically what we'll say. But if you had a whole bunch of one species, they'll tend to follow one another. That's okay for a lower species, something that doesn't have the intelligence that we supposedly have. But yet, if you see, one of the reasons why I talk about how you really don't want to go to protests, riots don't work. Yes, there are good intentions, and I understand that it does educate people. But there are always multiple ways to do things. And certain ways are not the only way. So yes, holding up a picket sign and demonstrating about an issue, yes, it can bring awareness, but so can a YouTube video in the comfort of your own home. And I am less likely to be pepper sprayed, arrested, or shot doing it this way than if I was to go in a group mentality and something went wrong, because then you're putting your trust and faith in others. But when you have perspective and you start understanding what perspective is all about, you'll get to notice that it doesn't matter what anybody else sees or anybody else thinks or anybody else believes. You have to trust in yourself, even if everybody thinks it's crazy. And that's one thing my channel is basically all about, is I talk about things that most people may not fathom, may not be ready for, may not like, may not be brave enough to deal with. And I get people like, for example, the other day, somebody making a video critiquing my orgone pyramids. And they have no clue what they're talking about. and they described my pyramids, which are about 5 or 6 inches in length, and comparing it to something that you could see in the pictures on eBay, holding it between their thumb and their pinky, which means it's less than about an inch across, and saying, oh, that's cheaper. And that's like comparing a Ferrari to a bicycle. Well, guess what? The Ferrari's going to be a lot more expensive. The bicycle is going to be a lot cheaper, but I guarantee you, you're going to get a lot more out of the Ferrari than you will in the bicycle. But again, it's all perspective. The person was somebody that I blocked, obviously didn't like me, and used their perspective of what they feel about me to take a biased opinion of something that I work very hard at. But again, it's a matter of perspective. Now, I'll show you perspective. Perspective is all about, you can have multiple people seeing the same thing, but seeing it from different perspectives where it becomes something different. Now, if you look at this, describe this. You'll say, well, it's blue, it's square, it's got some shiny things in it, and that's the limited perspective that you have. Now, if I only kept this like this, you would have no idea what else this is about. Because if I said to describe this, and you could leave a comment right now what you think you're seeing in your own perspective. Give as much detail as you can. Pause it if you have to. Okay, so if that was the only part of this object that you've ever seen, then you have a limited view of what is the entire picture. So again, this is all I showed you. So as far as you could tell, this is just a square. It's flat. It's not three-dimensional. It's blue, and it's sparkly. That's pretty much what you can get out of this. But here, if I turn it, now look. Now you could say, well, it's a pyramid. It's three-dimensional. It has multi-layers. It has multi-colors. Notice how perspective changes the same object? From here, if this is the only thing you saw, you see a square. You see only blue. You see only the sparkles. You only see one dimension. This way, you're seeing a totally different perspective of the same thing. Same if I did it in this direction. So it is a matter of how you see the world and from what point of view. And the problem is, people assume that the thing that they're seeing is the complete picture. That's why, like, for example, I was having a conversation earlier with a person on my Facebook page. His name is Stormcloud, so shout out for him. He was on his lunch break, and he decided to message me. It was a good conversation. But we started talking a little bit. He was talking about how aliens are real. Now, I can't prove either way because I've actually never met an alien, but I look at it this way. When it comes to an infinite universe with infinite possibilities and infinite space with infinite stars, infinite galaxies, infinite planets, for there not to be additional life in this endless universe is just, to me, mathematically impossible. But I've never met an alien, so I can't prove it either way. So best I can do is make my own personal guess based on my beliefs of it or my feelings of it. So in other words, I can have faith that there's other life forms, but that's because I can't prove it. But one of the things this person said is, you know, there are real aliens in this planet, and guess what? They're not harmful. And I said, you have to be careful about that, because in the yin-yang scenario, there is always good and bad, positive, negative. But again, it has to do with perspective, because I'll give you an example. If you have a cat, are cats violent? Are cats negative? For the most part, no. But if you rile up a cat and it has to defend itself, it's going to take out its claws. It's going to try and scratch you. It's going to try and bite you. It's going to hurt you. I mean, look at a gun. Is a gun deadly? It can be. But if you have a gun laying on a table or locked away in a safe, what harm can it do? It only becomes deadly when somebody takes it, points it at somebody, and pulls a trigger with the intent of injury or harm or murder. So everything is about perspective. And you have to understand or understand that there are always two sides to the same coin. And it's all about your perspective. And this is what certain people who disagree with me don't seem to get, because they base everything solely on the fact is, I don't like this person, I don't like his perspective, which means it must be wrong because I'm thinking in a different way. And then what they do is, to justify it, they go outside of their own instincts and have other people who have similar opinions have to come and rah-rah them on and cheer them on. So they can feel okay that, okay, I don't like bar none, and other people don't like him, so that justifies that I must be right. No, that's the true meaning of insecurity. When you have to seek out elsewhere to get your verification of what you wish to believe in, then that means you don't really believe it yourself. Because you wouldn't need other people's opinions. When you're hungry, you don't go around calling your friends and saying, are you hungry? Because I'm not sure if I'm hungry, but if you're hungry, I'll be hungry too. Or you don't say, you know, I think I love this girl, or I think I love this guy, or I think I love this object, but I'm not sure. But if you're in love and you like this thing, then okay, I guess it's okay. And it's the same thing with these orgone pyramids. Some people will like them, some people won't. It's just a matter of perspective. But the thing they don't understand is, it's all a choice. People need to, if they want, they don't need, actually, that's the wrong word for me to use. If people want to better their lives, they have to start searching from within. Because here's the thing that's the amazing part in this world. Your brain is not what you've been told it is. It is not a thinking machine. Just like your computer is not a thinking machine. It can process information, but unless we put that information into the computer would never turn itself on. It would never do anything but just blink or show pretty lights. And if you think about the internet is everywhere. If you're watching this on some kind of wireless device, please point out where the information is coming from. Is it in a straight line? Is it coming to you by some magic? No, it's just your computer has basically an antenna that receives that signal from everywhere. Just imagine if you were able to see every radio station, every word that's ever been spoken, every image ever been displayed on a TV or a computer. Just imagine if you could see it, how it is in the universe. Do you think it's all scattered and everywhere and just somehow comes together? Or do you think there's pictures everywhere floating around like each other, like a bunch of cars and buses and trucks all zooming along on a superhighway? Your brain is the same way. The universe has everything in it. We're just receivers of that information when it's appropriate for us to get that information. So it's not that somebody's smarter than somebody else, it's just they have a better antenna. Because if you think your brain is creating thoughts and creating nothing when everything is in the universe, that's like you looking at this computer right now and you think I am in your computer because you see my image on it right now. Let me out. No. You don't turn on your radio and hear Green Day playing and you think the band is in your radio. You don't watch TV and watch American Idol, which I hope the people that watch this channel don't, but you're not sitting there saying, boy, I hope I can get them out of the TV because they're trapped in there. No, it's just receiving a signal. You actually have more powerful output in your heart than you ever will with your brain. Your brain is like the memory of your computer. It only works if it's fed information. Your computer's RAM does not create the information. It just receives what you input into it or download into it. And that's why if you see on my cover page, you'll see the video I did. It's got the rainbow and the sky in the background, and it's talking about how things were downloaded, how I felt like that night. The information was downloaded into me, and that's when I got that epiphany moment. And that makes it more beautiful, because when you start to get that They don't want you to trust in yourself. They don't want you to have inner knowledge and seek within. Because like they say in the Bible, if your eye be single, it will fill with light. They're talking about your third eye, your crystal, because your pineal gland is a crystal. But it becomes calcified with all the garbage that we put in our bodies. And we do it willingly because they say, here, this is what you need. And we go on an outside source to get our information. That's why if you ever look at the movie The Dark Crystal, well, they're talking about how a shard from this crystal split and these entities turned into two separate beings. You had the bad guys and you had the good guys. Now, one thing when I was a kid I always wondered about, and watch this movie again so you could see it. In the beginning of the movie where one of the good guys, I forget their names and it's irrelevant, but he's on his deathbed, and the little gelfling is talking to him, and and the good guy who's about to die is saying that you have to go on a quest to save everyone and go find the dark crystal. And the gelfling's saying, I don't know where to find it. So there's this kind of bowl of almost looks like liquid mud, and he raises his hand and shows an image of a mountain. And he says, this is where the dark crystal is. And one thing I always wondered about, and you could watch this for yourself and see it, I always wondered, why does that mountain, on the top of it, why does it look like a brain? And I always said that when I was a kid. I was like, wow, that's weird. He says, go to this mountain, and he lifts up this thing, and in this liquid stuff, whatever it is, comes up a clear image of a mountain, and it kind of goes over a little bit, but it looks like the top of it looks like a brain. And I always wondered, that's not a mountain. It looks like the top of somebody's head. And he said, you have to climb up this mountain, follow the sun for a certain amount of time, and you'll get to this mountain, and you'll see a witch or something creature. I think her name was Helga or something like that. And the funny part is, as he's climbing the mountain, when he gets near the top, all of a sudden there's these dangly vine things all over the place. Well, if you think about it, that would be like your nerve endings going into the brain, where when the vines capture this gelfling, all of a sudden you see this one eye from that creature. It takes its eye out. It only has one eye, the single eye, and starts looking around, realizes he's okay, lets him go into the cave, and what is the first thing you see when you're entering that brain-like image? All of a sudden you see like a planetarium where there's a whole bunch of planets on this mechanized device spinning around. In other words, they're saying the universe is within your brain, and the crystal that you're searching for is actually your pineal gland, because in the end of the movie, spoiler alert, he puts that crystal back into it, and the creatures that were once separate become one. And guess what? They become a higher source. They become light. They become from a physical form to a higher consciousness of light, bright light. And then there were like 6 or 7 of them, I think, or 8, I don't know, but then they all merge as one and disappear upward. In other words, they became enlightened. So if you look at that story metaphorically, you're talking about that to get enlightenment and to join back to part of the universe where everything came from one source, you have to get your crystal, which is your pineal gland, which is in your brain, where the universe really is. You have to seek your inner self and trust your inner self. And no one else can guide you. And if you let other people guide you, then you're always going to be led. And you're not always led to the best places. Example, look at the universe right now. Look at our planet right now. Look at our government right now. Look at all the chaos. Look at all the nonstop wars. Look at the fact that almost every animal on this planet has a predatory nature, where they're feeding off of each other. That's just a mental image of how we are as a species. Is it any wonder why the majority of animals on this planet are nothing but pretty much predatory? Either prey or predator? Feeding off of another, in other words, consuming someone else's energy? The more you start to trust your instincts, the more you stop worrying about what other people say. Yes, I can talk about it. But like, for example, the other day when somebody made that ridiculous video about me, which, by the way, kudos to YouTube. So for the first time, they actually took down a video that was basically harassment. So I will give credit where credit is due. YouTube, you did a good job. I thank you for that. And it shows that my subscribers really do care. Because Not once did you ever hear me say, flag a video down or thumb it down. All I do is say, here, go visit it and see for yourself. Make your own judgment. You get what you give. So if I try to say all these negative things, that could turn against me. You get what you give. But I can talk about that stuff, but I don't let it affect me. Now, like, I didn't go off and say, oh my God, people now are going to think I'm this, or because somebody else said that, oh, I'm going to shut down, or I'm going to kill myself. No. It's okay to talk about stuff. It's like anything. People never have a problem with talking about things that are good, that are happy, but they seem to always be afraid about the negative stuff and say, oh, you got to stay away from it. No, you don't. You can learn just as much from a bad thing as you can a good thing. It's all a matter of your perspective. Burning your hand on a stove is a bad thing. You can injure yourself. But if you touch a stove as a kid, because you always do the opposite of what your parents tell you, and you make a little burn, it's going to hurt. But then it's going to be imprinted in your mind, it's your memory, to never do it again. So you can take good out of bad. It just depends on your perspective. Or you could say, woe is me, I burned my hand, I'm going to feel bad for the rest of my life. It's all a matter of choice. That's the freedom. That's the free will. It's just like if you ever saw the movie Labyrinth, it is all about being in a maze where they change the walls and you don't know it. So you think you're walking on your own, which you are, but they're guiding you in the direction they want you to go because you're putting your trust in other people. You're putting your faith in other people. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And that's why I don't listen to people like Alex Jones. But in the beginning I did, when I didn't know what was going on, and he helped me go to a certain level. But you're never going to get past that level because it's nothing but nonstop fear porn designed to keep you in a lower vibration, which is making you easier to be controlled by keeping you angry, depressed, and scared. But it's like every step. You'll never get to your destination if you stay on the same step. You have to keep going up and up and up. And that's what all about. It's all about being enlightened, to rise above, to become ether, not always physically. So I hope this helps. I want people to start trusting in themselves. Stop being afraid if you are ready to understand what fear is all about. Fear can be used as good, because fear will tell you, don't go and try and kiss a cobra, because you will regret that decision. Don't manhandle a tarantula or a Scorpio. A Scorpio. Well, yeah, you don't want to manhandle a Scorpio either, but a scorpion, because they can sting you. Don't go swimming with jellyfish. Fear can be good if you see it for what it is, and it's nothing more than a warning sign. And some people choose to stay in a lower vibration, where they are full of anger, because it's easier. It takes no effort to hate. It takes no ability to destroy. These people that have major problems with me, I have major problems with lots of people. Like, for example, I don't like Alex Jones, but you will never see me on his channel attacking him, because it's his choice to do what he wants. I respect his ability to do it, even if it's not helpful. Because it does help people to awake. It's just they get stuck there because they think that's what they need, and they're so afraid to get to the higher levels because they think it's going to be worse. It actually is better. And that's why even in people in relationships, they'll stay in a negative relationship because they're used to it, than to take the chance of being alone, because people are so afraid to be alone. Negativity is a choice. And if you choose it, then don't be surprised that negativity is all you have in your life. But it takes no effort to be negative, to be hurtful, to injure someone. It can take months, it can take years to create a building. It only takes seconds to bring it down. That doesn't require intelligence. And we have smart people in this world, scientists, that could improve our food, our water, our air, our way of life. And instead, they're more worried about what kind of bomb we could create to kill. Does it take intelligence to create a bomb? It sure does, but it takes wisdom to know why you shouldn't make one. And that's one of the things I've always said in my life that I use as much as I can, is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And some of the people out there that are so full of hatred and negativity, well, if they don't like what I say, then don't watch. There's a reason why they keep watching. Why? Because they're really afraid, and that's why they hide. And that's why they're always angry, because they don't want to learn, but that's their choice. And they don't like the fact that I'm happier. And I'm happy not because I have millions of dollars, which I don't. I'm not happy because I have millions of friends, which I don't. I'm not happy because I have everything I want, which I don't. I'm happy because it's my choice to be. But that means that I will still be sad at times. I will still be angry. I will still be confused. Like I was saying to somebody left a comment a little bit earlier that I responded to that said, you know, I'm finally going to get rid of the fear porn and being depressed all the time, and I'm going to build my amusement park. Because I've had a video about that, so if you want to watch it, it'll help you have a better perspective on things. And I said, just keep in mind that even if you build your own amusement park, remember, rides break down. Sometimes you have to create new rides. Sometimes people will complain about your park. Sometimes people will not be happy. Sometimes people will go there to try and destroy or hurt or damage your park. It's just part of the whole perspective. You can't control what other people do, but you can control how you react to it. So, as much as I like to talk about the good and the bad, it shows that I'm not afraid to deal with the bad and only deal with good. Because you could learn from both. And the ironic part is all the people that have been making fun of my Oregon pyramids, I've never had more sales in the past 2.5 weeks. I've had more sales actually in the past 2.5 weeks than I have in the past 1.5 years. There you go. Positive perspective. So they're there thinking, oh, we got Chris, we're going to make fun of it, and you're scamming people, and you're this. First of all, I'm not scamming anybody, because I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. And the only people that buy it are people that research this stuff and are into it. I'm providing what they want. I'm not forcing anybody. I'm not using fear. So if you think I'm scamming, don't buy it. I'm not here to tell anybody to. But the funny part is, they try so hard to discredit me, but they show my website, they post links to it, and people have been buying like crazy. So thank you. Perspective. You're thinking you're hurting me, you're actually helping me. So keep at it. Because the real honest people will always know BS when they see it. The only people that thumb up those hating videos are the other haters out there, the other people that prefer to be stuck in a lower vibration. And they want to have somebody else to vent about instead of actually looking deep inside themselves. And they wonder why, for years, they're still bitter and angry. While me, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know when I started my old channel, Born on 11/9/67, I was very confused. I didn't really know what was going on. I was full of a lot of emotion, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. And now I've risen above. So it's almost like a person going to the gym and sticking with the same weights for years. They will not increase their weights. They're curling 100 pounds. And meanwhile, I start out at 30 pounds, and every 2 weeks to every month, I add another 10, and now I went from 30 pounds to 150 pounds in a year's time. And they, a year later, are still bench pressing the same amount, or curling. That's what these people are doing. They're angry for years because they don't do anything to rise above it. So the only people they have to really not like is themselves. But instead of dealing it with themselves, which requires effort and responsibility, they say, oh, well, I need to put my hatred and my anger and frustration out on something else so I can justify it. And then all the other people who don't like this person or like these things or don't believe in this idea, they're going to pat me on the back. And I need that because I'm insecure. I don't need anybody's opinion. I appreciate it, but I don't need it. So when people compliment me, I love it. If people want to disagree, that's fine. The people that want to try and insult me, I actually feel sorry for those people because they are always going to stay that way. And I've risen above. Does that mean I'm better than them? No. But it means I don't have to associate with them, because the only reason people even know these people exist is when they mention somebody like me or someone else, because they cannot have people want to go near them unless they do that. So they need me. Because I remember one time when I quit my first channel, Born on 11/9/67, the haters were almost begging for me to come back because now they had nothing to talk about, which makes them irrelevant. I've helped people stop from committing suicide. I've done good, and it's because I trust myself. I trust my instinct. I look at all perspectives. I don't just look at this and say, all right, it's a square, it's blue, it's got some nice shiny things. I say, what's on the other side? What else can I see? And alas, there are lots of different perspectives. Every time I rotate this, people can see a different thing, whether it's a different kind of stone, whether it's the light as it's reflecting on different images, the color patterns, the shape. It always changes, but it's still the same thing. Perspective. Trust your instinct. If you sit there and say this is a square and somebody else says no, it's a pyramid, they could sit there all day and say, well, I don't see a square, I only see a pyramid, so that person's an idiot or he's a liar. When you're saying, wait a minute, how can you call me a liar when I clearly see a square? Where do you see a pyramid? Well, I see a pyramid. I'm looking at it right now. What are you, stupid? What are you, crazy? You don't see a pyramid? That's exactly what you see. You need to go back to school because you obviously don't understand what a pyramid is. Where do you see a square? Oh, well, look, dummy. I'm looking at a square right now. What kind of retarded person are you to sit there and tell me this is a pyramid? I know my shapes. Maybe you're the one that needs to go back to school. See how the fighting starts over the most ridiculous thing? Because it is a pyramid and it is a square. It is all your perspective. Thanks for watching. Peace.